For anyone listening to you, it seems like almost there is no acknowledgement of the huge public anger that ousted your mother, the decades of repression that burst onto the streets. Your mother's government makes a brutal attempt to suppress that uprising, fails, she has to leave the country. No remorse for any of that?
If you've listened to my statements online, I have said again and again, the Awami League mishandled the protests. Our government mishandled the protests.
Isn't mishandling a mild word for the killings of hundreds and hundreds of mainly unarmed protesters by the security forces, ordered by your mother?
None of it was ordered by my mother. If my mother had been willing to kill protesters, she would still be in power.
In this, the second episode of our series ahead of Bangladesh's upcoming elections, I'm far away from Dhaka. I'm in Washington, D.C., home to the son of Sheikh Hasina, Sajeeb Wazed, or Joy as he's known. Since Sheikh Hasina's dramatic overthrow in August 2024, when mass protests forced her to flee Bangladesh, she's been living in New Delhi under the protection of the Indian government and has not appeared on camera. Many of her key ministers too are in exile and reluctant to appear on TV. In this vacuum, her son has emerged as one of the key spokespersons for his mother and for her party, the Awami League. For the first time in Bangladesh's history, the Awami League has been banned from contesting elections. I'm here to ask Sheikh Hasina's son, has the Awami League learnt any lessons from the massive public backlash to years of its repressive politics? Or is the party and its leadership still in a state of denial? More fundamentally, does the Awami League, one of the most dominant forces in Bangladesh, have a future at all? Mr. Wazed, thank you so much indeed for talking to us. Now, you've been saying that the ban on the Awami League from contesting these elections is undemocratic and illegitimate. And let's agree that sweeping bans on political parties are a bad idea. Many human rights watchdogs say that. But isn't there a great irony here? Because when you complain about rigged elections and unfair practices, that's exactly what the Awami League has been accused of doing for years in order to win elections.
This is true, the accusation, but you look at the facts. Okay. The Awami League never banned anyone, first of all. We have never imposed a ban on any political party. It was a court decision, it was an appeal from a third party that upheld that Jamaat's constitution conflicted with our constitution.
You're referring to the ban on the Jamaat-e-Islami, which is one of the major political parties in Bangladesh.
Yeah, but the Awami League government never officially banned Jamaat.
Okay, you didn't ban anybody, but at the same time, and this is just one of many different sources I'm going to cite, Human Rights Watch says that the Hasina-led government has effectively captured key institutions, including the Election Commission. The US State Department said that the 2024 elections, the last election, which you won with a landslide, your mother won with a landslide, was not free or fair. The UN's Human Rights Council said the Awami League's election victories were marred by irregularities, violence, and intimidation by security forces. I can keep going.
No, I've heard them all. Look, if you look at before the 2018 elections, our polls, the Americans' opinion polls, showed the Awami League was going to win by a landslide. None of us wanted any irregularities. There were people in the administration that took it upon themselves. My mother and I, from the party side, we were furious. We wanted a clean election because we were going to win anyway. Our opinion polls, I myself run our polling for our party. We polled 160 constituencies.
Right.
In those 160 constituencies, which were the battleground out of 300, our minimum margin of victory was 30%. So there was absolutely no reason. Now the 2024 elections, there was no rigging. Now, unfortunately, our opposition decided to boycott.
No, but hold on. The argument could be the opposition was boycotting because of the climate. The environment was such that it wasn't free and fair. They were saying that these were marred by violence, intimidation by security forces. The Election Commission has been captured by your mother's government. Those are very serious charges.
The Election Commission was nominated and selected from a committee, not by our government. Okay. If you look at what's happening now, why are these same observers not saying anything? You have the elections with the major party banned.
Yes.
You've got now evidence is coming out online of postal ballots, hundreds of postal ballots being stuffed.
So actually,
Why
some
are
of these bodies have questioned the ban. They have critiqued the ban. But as I said, that doesn't take away from the fact that the Awami League's own record when it comes to elections is marred not just by irregularities. These are serious malpractices. But I want to move on. I want to come back to the ban because one of the reasons for the ban is the government says you're inciting violence in these elections. And that's true, isn't it? Because you've said in interviews that we will not allow elections without the Awami League to go ahead. We will do whatever it takes. If the government's crack down on our protests, then it's going to lead to violence. I'm warning of it.
Right.
You stand by this.
But yes, well, when you push someone into a corner, what's going to happen? We don't want violence. We're not even being allowed to protest. So what violence is the Awami League committing right now?
I'm talking about the threat.
Yes, I understand. What I'm saying is if you back someone into a corner, you do not leave them any options, what are they going to do?
The option could be to tell your protesters or your supporters not to respond to provocation. As a responsible political party, you could say, let me just make the argument. You can tell your supporters, don't take the violent path, regardless of the provocation. Because otherwise, you're actually making the government's case for them. Because they will look at what you're saying and say, listen, this is why we need to ban them because the Awami League has gone rogue.
So again, anything that this regime is doing, all the violence they have committed, that's okay?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
Right now, you have, since the protests of last July, hundreds of our activists have been killed. 30 some odd have been killed in custody. A Hindu gentleman, a minority leader of our party was killed in jail under custody just the past week. So you say two wrongs don't make a right. When you suppress someone by force, you do not give them any other option. What's going to happen?
No, but Mr. Wazed, don't you believe that by using this kind of rhetoric, you are actually then endorsing the view that the Awami League deserves to be banned? Because of, as I said, the fact that you're holding out this threat of violence. Let us contest or else.
I did not threaten violence. I said that if you suppress the protests with violence, of course there will be violence. I did not ask my protesters to attack.
Okay, you're now somewhat quibbling with semantics. But when you said that there hasn't been any violence so far, authorities in Bangladesh actually say that's not true. They say the Awami League was behind the assassination of the youth leader Sharif Osman Hadi just weeks ago while he was campaigning in Dhaka. Is that true? Was the Awami League behind his killing?
Of course not. Look, if we had the ability to conduct killings in Bangladesh right now, you think this regime would still be standing? No. Right now, the Awami League, we do not have the violent personnel, if you will, that perhaps some other organizations have.
Not according to the police in
They're
Dhaka.
blaming
They said the
everything.
shooter, if I can just finish, the shooter was directly involved with the student wing of the Awami League, the Chhatra League. They say that Hadi was killed because he was an outspoken critic of your party. It was an act of political vendetta.
I don't know who the shooter is. There have been many names that have been floated. They have named so many people who have nothing to do with it. As far as our student wing was concerned, there were so many young people involved with it, especially when we were in government. Was he really involved? How involved was he? Did he hold a post? They're pinning the blame on everything to the Awami League.
But it's a fair assumption to make, isn't it, Mr. Wazed? Because on one hand, you say that there is the possibility of violence, the threat of violence, and then you actually do have an actual act of violence.
My threat of violence is from
protests. So the dots do get joined.
No, they don't actually. I don't see how. Again, do you see the Awami League even out on the streets in Bangladesh? That's not even happening. We have tens of thousands behind bars. Every time we've tried to protest, they've just arrested everybody.
Okay.
So the Awami League is not involved in any violence whatsoever. Our campaign now is asking people not to vote in these rigged elections. That's what we're doing.
Okay, but let me ask you this. For anyone listening to you, it seems like almost there is no acknowledgement of the huge public anger that ousted your mother, the decades of repression that burst onto the streets. Your mother's government makes a brutal attempt to suppress that uprising, fails. She has to leave the country. No remorse for any of that?
That is not true. If you've listened to my statements online, I have said again and again, the Awami League mishandled the protests. Our government mishandled the protests.
Isn't mishandling a mild word for the killings of hundreds and hundreds of mainly unarmed protesters by the security forces, ordered by your mother?
None of it was ordered by my mother. If my mother had been willing to kill protesters, she would still be in power. You look at what's happening in Iran right now. Are they able to do anything? No. My mother's statement.
Yes.
Again and again, yes. And to me, my conversation that day was, they are marching on the Prime Minister's residence. Our special security force and the Prime Minister's guards are ready to defend her. But if that happens, hundreds will die. I don't want their blood on my hands. That is what my mother said. During that time, hundreds of police officers were killed. Hundreds of our activists were killed as well. This regime actually granted immunity to the protesters for the killings of...
Let's stay away from this regime for a second, because when you say your mother didn't give the instructions, you saw the Al Jazeera reporting on it, the BBC reporting on it, the recordings that were there.
Yes,
if I can just finish, where your mother can be heard saying she's cleared the use of lethal force against the protesters. She says, I've issued an open order. Now they will use lethal weapons, shoot wherever they find them.
No, that is actually, both Al Jazeera and BBC have taken that clip out of context. I have put that full clip on my Facebook page. She says she orders for the arrests of protesters and lethal force to protect property and life against militants. There were militants involved in it. There are videos online of civilians with weapons.
Hold on, but if I can just come in on the clip though, because I've heard you say this in other interviews, that you put the full clip on your social media pages. Yeah. We scoured your social media pages. We couldn't find any such clip.
That is strange. So
would you be prepared to share that with us?
Of course, I'll put it back up. Okay, several clips have been taken down, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, but when you say that she was issuing an order about property, that doesn't seem to be what she said. When she says, I've issued an open order, now they will use lethal weapons, shoot wherever they find them. That seems like a very broad-based instruction.
But that is for violent protesters, armed protesters, terrorists, not for unarmed protesters. Now, so in any country,
yes,
would the government, what happens if there are armed protesters shooting at people and shooting at police? What would they do?
So, Mr. Wazed, you talk about armed protesters, you talk about terrorists. Look at the sort of people who've been shot and killed. Abu Saeed, 25-year-old college student, unarmed, shot point blank by the police. His killing was caught on camera, went viral. Is he an extremist? Zobaid Hossein Iman, 12 years old. He was shot in the head by security forces firing from a helicopter. Mir Rahman Mugdo, also 25, also a student, also unarmed, shot dead by the police while distributing water to protesters. Are these extremists?
It was a very violent situation. There were police officers who used excessive force. Our government suspended many police officers during that time. We formed a judicial committee to investigate. Why weren't those investigations continued?
Would you be willing to apologize to the families of all of these protesters, including Zobaid Hossein Iman, Mir Rahman Mugdo, Abu Saeed? Would you be willing to apologize to the
My mother met with Abu Saeed's family right after it happened. She already met with them.
Okay.
During that time, before our regime fell, my mother met with several of these families. She promised them full investigations, full accountability.
But for the most part though, multiple investigations, multiple watchdogs have found that the majority of the 1,400 who were killed were innocent, unarmed protesters. So that's a huge...
Yes, I know. But according to the government's own number, the number is about 800.
Which is also a big number.
I understand, but the 1,400 number comes from until August 15th. Our government fell on August 5th. Who killed the people from August 5th to 15th?
But Mr. Wazed, they're still finding bodies.
I know.
They're still finding mass graves which are connected to the uprising.
That is completely being set up by this government. No, there are no mass graves.
You're denying the mass graves that have been
I have not heard of mass graves.
Okay, well, there's one that was just discovered with 114 bodies this month.
What about the 500 people that were killed after our government fell? Who killed them? Why were Who killed them?
Again, respectfully,
No,
this
in that
this is whataboutery, though.
You're talking about the 1400 number. Look, justice must be equal. You cannot have one-sided justice. One-sided justice is not justice.
Okay, but shouldn't the justice, Mr. Wazed, also extend to the political leadership? Because if I can finish, the UN investigation found that they were able to establish that the serious abuses against protesters by security forces occurred with the full knowledge, coordination, and direction of the political leadership, which obviously includes your mother.
That is a complete fallacy. I know the UN report is biased. Again, like I said, the UN report lists 1,400. It includes deaths after our government fell, and they've blamed our government for it. How is that a fair report?
So you reject the UN report, you reject the BBC and Al Jazeera recordings.
No,
it's a question of being very selective with what you accept and what
actually, it's the BBC and Al Jazeera that have been selective.
Okay.
And we have provided full clips online. We have provided pictures online of other people that were killed. We have provided pictures and of police officers that were killed.
As I said, those clips we are not able to find. We'll receive them from you. But I want to come back before I move on to the fundamental point you're making. You're saying that then your mother is not at all accountable for all of those killings.
That is not what I'm saying.
All of the excesses.
No, that is not what I'm saying at all.
Power.
What I'm saying is this. We did not grant immunity to anyone. We wanted justice for everyone. Anyone who was responsible for any deaths. What you
including
have now,
her. What about that justice?
Because my mother did not order any killings. My mother did not want any deaths.
As I said, there is the audio, there is the UN report. You reject both of them.
No, the audio includes,
but that's your choice.
Includes my mother.
Okay, let me move on, Mr. Wazed, because it's not just charges of repression. Party leaders, including you, your family members, face allegations of embezzling billions of dollars from Bangladesh. You've personally been charged with accumulating illegal wealth running into millions of dollars, which Bangladeshi authorities say we've used to buy homes, including here in America.
Right.
Is that true?
Where are these homes? You're in my house. This is the only home I own. I applied and got my US citizenship earlier this year. Now, if I had hidden wealth, if I had all these illegal properties, how would I receive US citizenship? The FBI investigated me. Where is it? Allegations are easy to throw around. They have not been able to name one business, one instance where
Mr.
any of my
Wazed,
family has been involved in corruption.
Okay, if that's the case, if the allegations are so bogus, why is it that your cousin Tulip Siddique, who's an MP in the UK, resigned as minister from the Starmer cabinet? Because she's also been accused of the same allegations.
Yes, that was because of political embarrassment. This was a smear campaign against her. To date, the government of Bangladesh, this regime, the Anti-Corruption Commission, they have not provided one shred of documents, one shred of evidence. They have not even provided us anything.
But surely, if it was so insignificant, the charges, someone who's a minister in the UK cabinet wouldn't have to resign. I mean, obviously that suggests that there must have been something substantial or something.
No, she was cleared by the UK watchdog. They investigated her and cleared her. So how did the UK watchdog?
Resign?
She resigned to avoid embarrassment, to avoid embarrassing the government. But the UK watchdog cleared Tulip of any irregularities. How did they clear her?
Okay, what about then the Awami League minister, the former minister, who was found to have 360 houses in the UK? Those properties are now being frozen. That's not bogus.
What do I have to do with him?
He was a minister in your mother's cabinet.
I can't be responsible for, my family can't be responsible for everyone. Now,
but was your mother aware, was your government aware that you had a minister? Because this is the wider allegation, that it was not just the family, it was everyone. Were they aware that this gentleman was acquiring 360 houses in the UK? Bangladesh is a poor country.
Well, from what I understand though, that gentleman, his family is wealthy for generations. They have properties in the US, properties in the UK that they've been investing for years. That's what I know.
So you're saying that all of these 360 houses were bought from his personal wealth, because the UK authorities don't think so. They froze them.
Well, that I don't know. That's between, I can't keep track of him. This is all I know is that his family, they've been business people for decades.
Did your mother take any action against him?
We didn't know of these allegations until now.
The allegations actually surfaced when you were in office, when your government was in office. The first reporting on it came out before the July uprising? It came out towards the end of 2023 and early 2024.
Unfortunately, I don't know anything about that, so I can't really answer on that.
But doesn't that concern you, though, that when you look at this sort of evidence, it does suggest that there was arguably very high-level corruption within your mother's government?
Again, were there corrupt people there? Probably. But in any country, corruption 100% is impossible to control. We did try. We brought many people to justice. But again, my mother was focused on development.
Okay, let me ask you about something else, Mr. Wazed, which is another big emerging story, which is to do with the worsening tensions between India and Bangladesh, two otherwise friendly countries. And the main trigger is your mother's presence in India, where she's now been for 1.5 years. Bangladesh wants India to extradite her because of the charges she faces. India has so far said no. Surely this is an untenable position. Is there a plan B?
Plan B to what?
To the fact that your mother is in India, how long that's going to be possible for her to stay there? Because I'm assuming that wasn't the first option, that she was going to end up staying there the whole time.
No.
India was meant to be a transit point, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that's a misconception. No, India is actually the safest country in the world for her.
So the idea from the beginning was for her to just remain in India throughout?
Look, this was not a planned situation anyway. This happened on the spur of the moment.
Okay.
India was the best safe haven for her. My mother wants to go back home. She wants to retire. She doesn't want to live abroad.
But I'm saying that's not an option, obviously, at the moment.
No, not at the moment. It will be at some point.
But I'm saying that the time when you actually came, or when she came to India, the reporting was that she was looking for a safe haven in a country that would be less geopolitically sensitive than India, because her presence in India obviously escalates frictions with Bangladesh. And was the reason why she ended up staying there because no other country wanted her because of all these accusations, because of all the charges?
No. My mother has not made. We have not made any attempt for my mother to move anywhere else. That's not an issue at all. India is the safest country in the world for her, but the tension isn't because my mother is there. The tension is because the rise of terrorism. The Yunus regime has released all convicted terrorists from jail. And India is concerned about terrorism on its eastern border. Pakistan has been given a free hand inside India.
Actually, Mr. Wazed, the tensions are because Bangladesh is accusing your mother of making incendiary statements while on Indian soil. So that's a huge point of friction between both countries.
So you're saying...
as just one reason. The number two reason is the fact that India is refusing to extradite her.
Right.
So I'm saying...
Well,
those are major triggers.
I know. So you're saying basically the Yunus regime is complaining that my mother is using her freedom of speech. They're so worried about my mother making statements. They're so afraid of them. Huh?
I'm talking about the diplomatic friction between both countries.
Right.
And the reason I ask you this is because at the end of the day, this is realpolitik. And do you think it's tenable for India to withhold the extradition request indefinitely? Because ultimately governments change. The Indian government is already doing outreach with potential new rulers in Bangladesh. So there may come a time when they say, listen, we're not able to sustain this anymore.
An extradition request involves a judicial process. In order for that to happen, the conviction has to be proven the evidence has to be provided in Indian court. And the regime in Bangladesh does not have any evidence against my mother. The conviction was a sham. It was rushed through.
You're now talking about the conviction of your mother. She's been sentenced to death
Right.
by a judicial proceeding in Bangladesh.
Right, which was a sham proceeding. My mother was not even allowed to appoint her own lawyers. And the laws were changed, which this regime, in order to enable that trial,
Sure.
which
So
without parliament you cannot change laws. On the extradition process,
Yeah.
the underlying judicial process has to follow due process. Without that, there can be no extradition.
But ultimately, as you know, Mr. Wazed, these are also political calls, because when she came to India and she ended up staying there, that was a political decision of the government to allow her to do that. And I'm saying that politics is a fluid beast.
Well, that
the reality can change.
that-
And I'm simply asking you that is there a plan B?
Actually, no. We are that confident in India. India has due process. India is not a kangaroo republic, a banana republic like Bangladesh is right now, and they will not extradite my mother.
Are you saying you've been given an assurance by India?
No, I'm not saying I've been given an assurance, but I know the judicial process. I spent 13 years of my life in India.
Okay.
India is a country of laws.
Okay, let me end by asking you, is there a future for the Awami League in Bangladesh?
Of course there is. The Awami League's not going anywhere. It's the oldest and largest party. Our vote share is 40-50%. What do you think? The 40-50% of the people are just going to stop supporting it? And in a country of 170 million people, you're talking about 60-70 million voters that are Awami League voters. You think they're just going to stop supporting the Awami League?
I asked because you indicated that your mother is planning to retire from
Yes.
politics. So after this, I mean, if she was ever able to go back to Bangladesh, she's not going to be in the political space anymore?
No, she's old. My mother's elderly. This was going to be her last term anyway. She wanted to retire.
So this is, in a sense, the end of the Hasina era?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. So you're saying that if the Awami League does get a chance to re-enter Bangladesh politics, it'll be without her?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Awami League is a political party. It's the oldest party. It's been around for 70 years. It will continue with or without her. No one lives forever.
Why should young Bangladeshis, Mr. Wazed, many of whom were part of the uprising that ousted your government from power, ousted your mother from power, why should they trust your party?
Then why don't we put it to a fair vote and let the people of Bangladesh decide? For 17 years, the development the Awami League provided, the stability and security the Awami League provided, the freedom, the stop to terrorism that the Awami League provided was unprecedented in Bangladesh's history. This is one fact that no one can deny, that the economic development, security and stability during my mother's 17 years was unprecedented in Bangladesh's history.
I mean, if that was the case, then why would the people have taken to the streets to oust her? Surely there was something deeply wrong. But I leave you with that because you're saying that the Awami League is still the best antidote for the chaos of Bangladesh. There is undeniably going to be chaos after a revolution, but whether you are the cause for it or the cure is something that you will agree is a matter of debate.
Look, 17 years, did our government make mistakes? Did our people in our government commit excesses? Yes.
Right.
I myself wasn't happy about many of them. I personally feel there were people in our government that should have been held accountable that weren't.
Isn't that possible?
But again, no, because look at the past 1.5 years. What do you have? Things are much, much worse. The economy has crashed. There's no law and order. Terrorists are running rampant. And now you have a completely rigged, farcical election.
Okay, as I said, cause or the cure, that's a matter of debate. Well, as I said, many would hold the Awami League guilty of those same charges as well. But thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us.
My pleasure.
And taking our questions. Thanks very much.